we've always had to stay open to what the other person is saying. So I won't expand on that too much, but that's just a very, very important part of the relationship.
Yeah.
And to touch on the subject matter that we were kind of spinning into a little earlier, but
Mhm.
I want to focus on what I consider relationship reinvention. And that falls in line with the communication piece.
Okay.
Because, as I approach my 50s, I am not the guy that I used to be in my 20s. And so along the way, Jennifer and I have constantly reinvented our relationship. And
Okay.
so I also want to touch on, reevaluating our personal goals and reevaluating our relationship goals. Because sometimes people lose themselves in a relationship and forget about some of the goals and dreams they had going into the relationship. And they just get lost in a relationship and forget their goals, which
Yes.
eventually, escalates into resentment internally and then it becomes external. So when I want to, so relationship reinvention. So like I said, we're transparent. This is a nice discussion session, but I'm just going to touch on our most recent reinvention. And here we go. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? I had to open my mind. Y'all ready?
Okay.
Eddie, I'm traditional.
Let's
I'm
go.
not stylish. Are y'all out there in internet land listening to this? My wife bought me some joggers.
Hey.
I have never worn clothes this snug in my life, but my wife wanted to try something new with my fashion, right? I
Okay.
can see my
Okay.
ankles. I can see my ankles. I usually wear my dress pants, single break, so I don't see no sock, no ankle. But these joggers with sneakers, tennis shoes, whatever y'all want to call them, with a sweat jacket with a hood. Okay, this is the stylish.
Yes.
Okay, this is replace my slacks and button up. Okay, it took a while, but now when I go to my closet, I put those things on without going to my slacks and dress
Hey.
shoes.
Look at
And
you.
so that's just an example.
Look at
But
you being
I was
open to
resistant at
change.
first, but she was persistent.
Mhm.
Packages kept showing up, more joggers, more sneakers. So I got the point, but I say all that to say that in a relationship sometimes, as we change, as we mature, let's say for instance me, my style hasn't changed in
Yes.
16 years, but my wife is really stylish. And so I'm open to her likes and dislikes. I'm even open to the things the styles. I can't pick them, but if she picks them, I can pick them out the closet. And so when I say, relationship reinvention, it all comes down to the connection. So she had to introduce these things to me in a way. She had to be loving, probably had to uh, pay for 18 holes of golf, send me golfing first. And then when I come home, say, hey, babe, why don't you
Okay.
try these joggers?
So that means
And
that
she buttered me
a
up first.
strategy.
Yeah,
You have
she
to have a
buttered me up,
strategy.
send me golfing. Hey, babe, I got 18 holes for you. I come home all elated. Oh, by the way, I
You
want
know.
you to try these joggers. I put these things on. I'm like, Jay, I can see the change in my pocket. I can see that that's a quarter. Whoa, babe, that's a little snug. Okay, but let me try it. First, I tried them on. They hung in the closet for 2 weeks. Then actually went outside in them. Had to pace myself. But I say all that to say it comes back to, sometimes you have to focus on reinventing the relationship.
Yes.
So you have to try new things that maybe you weren't into year 10, year 15,
Mhm.
but you have to be mindful that as individuals you're changing.
Yes.
And so you touched on some things earlier about Jennifer. I think Jennifer touched on it about how, we stay in touch with one another and we do our check-ins.
Mhm.
And also during premarital counseling, Jennifer identified some goals, some things she wanted, some things she wanted to accomplish, and some things she looked forward to. Knowing these things, I'll check in with her to see, hey, are you still interested in these things? And so those are our little check-ins. But I believe that I'm big on the connection part. I don't think I've said anything about coexisting, but
No.
I'm all about connecting with Jay
Yes.
because that's
Yes.
that's
Yes.
my best one. So it's all about the connection part. Jennifer sees the whole
Y'all are
picture. I
connected.
see one picture. That's the connection. So she can handle coexisting. But
we touched on the coexisting as far as, like I said, going back to your childhood and how you handle things then, whether your parents were married, not married, whether your father was aggressive and your mom was passive, either way, you have to address who you are.
Yes.
And sometimes addressing who you are, there may be things that are awesome. There may be things that require improvement. But I know growing up with a single mother, one of the things that she taught me was that you always need to have your own money. And when I started out with Eddie, I assumed, I was like, listen, my mom said growing up that I'm supposed to have my own money. And he said, no. And I said, what? What you mean no? He was like, no. He was like, if you want your own money, you need to be single. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, in order for us to build together and grow together, we need to be one in everything. And he said that includes your finances. And so that was a thing that growing up as a single parent, in a single parent household, that was like a huge violation.
That's why I said, how big was that pill?
It was more than 800 Motrin, I can tell you that. But I was open to, once he explained it that way, because we committed to being one. So that doesn't mean you get to pick and choose when you want to be whole and when you want to be one. And so that was a period of me realizing that, okay, you grew up with a single mother. Your father, had these principles, but your mom had these principles. But I spent most of my time living with her, so I adapted to a lot of her principles. And so when I got married, I took some of those principles into my marriage. And it doesn't mean that my parents were bad. It just meant that the principles that I was taught were not successful for my marriage. Yes. And so if I had to continue that single mindset, that meant that I committed to a union that I was signing up to fail. Mm-hmm. And I was signing myself up to fail because I wanted to say, yay, I got a new last name, but I still wanted my own finances. And so those type of things don't work. It's okay to be who you are, but you need to recognize when it's time to grow. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to grow up with two parents or a single parent. They teach you the best that they can with what they know. Yes. And you respect them for that. But once you transition into another chapter of your life, you have to be open to changing.
Yes. And
so that was, a growth period for me, because I was having to grow into that one mindset. What I committed to was being whole and not being an individual. So I think it's important for people to address how they grew up and then how they take those things into their relationships and their partner. And I think in choosing a partner, you can't focus on who your parents were or who they were not. Mm-hmm. You have to focus on who you are and what you believe your mate should be. And it cannot look like anyone else's. It really has to be what you desire and what you think your next move would be. So it's important to figure out you so that your heart can heal and it's open to new things.
Mm-hmm. And so before we close, I don't think I've touched on coexisting at all, but I'm still not going to touch on coexisting. I'm going to merge it with some things we've already talked about. And so we've already chatted about relationship reinvention, and Jennifer has touched a lot on upbringing. And so I want to, utilize that in this next point that I'm about to make when it talks about how oftentimes we have to dig deep. We have to know who we are. We have to know what our weaknesses are. We have to know what our vulnerabilities are. And like Jennifer touched on, we have to be willing to change. Let's say, for instance, where I'm one of 7 and my family is extremely touchy-feely. We eat off each other's plate. Jennifer don't play none of that. But, when I met Jennifer, Jennifer was an island. And then slowly but surely together we became the big city. But I just want to touch on certain things about our upbringing. Let's say Jennifer wasn't brought up extremely, let's say, touchy-feely. If you try to hug and kiss Jennifer, you probably get, shunned a little bit. But I'm the complete opposite. And so I like to touch on how Jennifer used to respond to me when we get out in public and I grab her hand and we walk holding hands. Initially, that was a barrier for her. I'm in her space, and she had a tough time adjusting to that. But now you can't get our hands off of one another's hands when we're out in public, when we're watching TV, when we're driving in the car. And so we might have started out coexisting in certain aspects, but we've grown together in a lot of areas where we were initially immature. And so and I've noticed one thing about connection. Sometimes it's contagious because we've noticed over the years that when we walk towards a couple who are walking towards us, not holding hands, and they're walking towards us, by the time we're about 10 feet away from each other, one of them have reached over and grabbed the other one's hand. And so it's kind of contagious, because people see things in relationships that they want, but they may not know how to address it. So oftentimes we see older couples doing it because they don't care what people think anymore. But sometimes younger couples are still kind of indecisive about, oh no, what people gonna think? We're out and about. Guys are thinking, what are people gonna think about me? Am I this tough guy, or am I in a relationship? So little things like that, just public display of the connection in the form of hand holding. For me and Jennifer, that was a growth point, but it's also an opportunity to share with other couples that it's okay.
And that's good because, and I'll wrap up with this. Being connected, it causes you to come outside of yourself. When you're in a relationship, you realize that it's not just about you. You guys have grown to a place to where, you connected in the beginning, but your connection has grown over the 16 years that you've been together. You've had to make some adjustments. You had many changes that was present that needed to be addressed, and you guys did that. And it's not about what people think about you. It's about what you believe in yourself and your relationship. Because you can get into trouble when you start allowing what other people think, what other people say, how other people feel about your relationship. That can fester and get into what you guys have already built up and start to tear that thing down. And that's how the enemy gets into our relationships, when we start allowing outside things to get inside. And we have to get to a place. That's why when you're connected, you're committed. So when you're connected, can't nothing get in, because this is what we have committed ourselves to. I don't care what they said. You got to drown out the noise, in any relationship, and plus too, you said that it's catchy, it's contagious, because you don't ever know who's watching you, and that's why, and not just out when you're inside, y'all watch each other. So you never know how you can bless somebody, or how you can inspire somebody, in a relationship. That person, that couple that was walking towards you guys, you never know what they could have been going through, or went through that day before they saw you. And that just made them see how you guys were connected. Well, let's see if holding my hand will change some things, will make me feel a different way. And I know some people don't believe it, but when you touch, those spirits transfer.
I agree.
So that your connection, being connected, which leads to your commitment to each other, and the changes that have come with the strategy, because that change with the joggers that you got.
Ooh, I'm still okay. I see the change in my pockets, but okay.
But see, she had a strategy. She had a strategy. And your change come with, you got to have a strategy when change comes. Because I got to figure out how I'm going to adjust to this change. So if
Yeah.
I don't have a plan and a strategy, then that change might overcome me. I want to overcome it. So, but you you guys talk more about the connection because that's what you live, connected. You don't live coexisting. So you spoke on what it is that you every day, your everyday lifestyle is being connected to each other and finding ways to build and to grow your relationship and to keep that spice that you already had, you know. And then the fact that you're honest and open, you're transparent, you're friends, and you're able to communicate that thing, whatever it is that you connected to, that whatever it is that may come in that your connection, y'all gonna talk about that thing. Because Jennifer, this made me feel some kind of way. Well, Eddie, it made me feel some kind of way too.
Exactly.
Your communication goes so that you guys can come to an agreement about whatever the feeling was that you felt. And even when you're in the midst of other people, you feel things and they feel the vibes from you all, And so I just want to say that being connected in a marriage is definitely what you want to build on. You want to have that foundation because when you're connected, you're committed to where you're going. There's going to be some hard times. There's going to be some difficult moments. There's going to be some challenges that you face and some obstacles that you have to overcome. But because you're connected, you keep that battery charged. And whenever it needs to be recharged, y'all stay in the house to do that.
You do, absolutely.
Right.
You don't need outside influences when you're going through, because that means you're vulnerable.
Yes, and not sharing with everything and everybody. You keep your whatever you're dealing with and going through. Y'all work through it.
Right.
Yes.
Not America.
We'll talk about the whole armor in the next session.
Okay, all right. And we didn't get you the keeping the peace or making the peace, but we that too.
But that's the practice of pausing.
Yeah.
And that teaches you how to process what you're saying before it actually comes out your mouth.
Exactly.
And so that keeps you from existing because your partner can receive it in a way that's negative because you're angry and you're saying it when you're angry versus pausing.
And I think that's important too, that y'all take those pauses, in the house.
Right.
Yes. And then because you do, you're human. We're all human. You're going to have those moments where you get angry and you're going to have those disagreements and those times where, okay, that didn't sit well with me. And so, it's important to have those pauses in your relationship because that's what's going to keep the relationship together and connected and continuing to grow.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
And again, what you say, the whole arm?
Whole arm.
Whole
you
arm.
have to put on the whole
arm. That's a whole nother discussion.
The whole arm. Okay. And
all about the armor.
We're going to be back.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be our third session.
Yes.
So thank y'all so much.
You're welcome.
We have less than a minute. So
right. So that's why we're trying to keep it from cutting you off.
Well, I appreciate you and I appreciate everybody that's listening and hit us up. If you got questions, comments, let us know so that we can continue our connection.